paid job to provide greater independence. Emmerich is here representing Down Syndrome International and will be making a statement on the views and opinions of people with Down syndrome from around the world, including Down Syndrome International's Committee of National Representatives with Down syndrome. The committee is made up of people from 27 countries across the world. Down Syndrome International asked them about what having a job and working means to them and wrote this statement using their answers. Earlier today, the statement was discussed and approved by over 70 people with Down syndrome from 22 countries at the World Down Syndrome Congress, which is happening this week in Glasgow. And here is Emmerich Jean-Jean.
This is a statement from people with Down syndrome from around the world. Getting a job can be hard if you have Down syndrome. Often, we are paid less and sometimes treated badly. This needs to change. We want you to know that we are ready to work. We can do the same jobs as everyone else. We work hard, should be treated the same as everyone else. Having a chance to work and being treated equally is our rights. So, what do we need? We need a good education just like everyone else. We need training to get ready for work. We need support to find the right job. We need to be given a chance by employers. We need to be treated right at work. Let us help your business succeed. Let us help our country succeed. Respect our human rights. We just need a change.
Thank you so much, Emmerich. Now we welcome youth advocates Davika Malik and Jack Milne to the stage. Great.
Oh.
Hi.
Hello. G'day, everyone. Firstly, like an Australian wombat, slow and steady wins the race. So good afternoon, my fellow friends. Now is the time that we young people present to you the first ever World Disability Children and Youth Forum Charter, which is being drafted in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. A charter for and by young people with disabilities, strengthening a global social platform for disabled children and young people to discuss issues that matter to them, and a platform to share achievements, realising our potential by supporting one another and increasing disability awareness and inclusion as change makers, working together for an inclusive future. Including me too in the aims. Leave no young person behind, no matter their gender, religion, sexual preference, impairment or economic background. Young representatives with disabilities should be involved in the policy decision making and implementation. The link between education and employment. Help people in education achieve employment direct from school and university. Presuming competence, accurate data to improve efficiency and a driver for innovation. Maintain the inclusion across disaster and humanitarian action for people with disabilities. Now is the time for some of our outcomes during this summit. 30 videos were submitted across the globe. 15 young people were engaged in the workshops. 50 surveys were collected from children and youth across the world in less than 2 weeks. The results that were collected identified 3 themes: educational rights, integration, and gender equality. A global video campaign championed these three key things. Many high-level stakeholders have made a pledge to support the World Disability Children and Young Forum Charter. This includes the DFED Secretary of State, Penny Mordaunt, Lord Bates, government representatives from Kenya, Pakistan, Rwanda, Kenya, and International Disability Alliance, to name a few.
Good afternoon, everyone. As my colleague Jack has just elucidated, we have received overwhelming support for the World Disability Children and Youth Forum Charter, and we request you all to continue extending your support. As Lord Bates remarked during the Youth Roundtable today, this charter will serve as a benchmark to assess progress and accountability when we convene again next year. I'm heartened to note that this summit has achieved action-oriented outcomes for children and young people. For example, One Young World has partnered with Include Me Too to offer 5 scholarships to young changemakers with disabilities to attend the summit in Hague this year. The British Council has pledged to enhance the inclusivity of their ongoing programs as well as teacher training. Both the World Bank and the United Nations assured us this morning that accountability frameworks are in place to monitor the progress of their disability-inclusive commitments. These are just a few examples of the productive commitments that have been made today. I urge all stakeholders present here that now is the time to partner with and sponsor more young people with disabilities to join such forums and have a seat at the table to share their first-hand experiences. To conclude, I just want to reiterate that by being disability inclusive, we essentially recognize the humanity and the human rights of every 8th human being in the world to a barrier-free and inclusive world, be it our most basic needs, those of safety and security, or education and employment, or even simply just that of fun and leisure activities. Thank you all for being here today and contributing to a fruitful summit.
Thank you both. Thank you both very, very much.
But now is the time for a selfie with Defence Secretary Penny Mordaunt.
Now is the time.
Now is the time for a selfie.
Oh. Whilst we have a selfie, we're going to quickly hand over to Julia, who can tell us what she's taken from the afternoon. Julia, thank you. Put you on the spot.
Thank you. No, that's absolutely fine. So yes, how we've had an absolutely amazing afternoon. For a start, you had awesome lunch. You got to eat cookies. Fantastic. We came and we looked at things like, we looked at economic empowerment. We've looked at the fact that all we see is abilities. We're looking at how can we make inclusive business. We've talked about having a business revolution. We've also thought about inclusive education. We've thought about what inclusive education is, the kind of stories that people have worked their way through to arrive here today, and the fact that education is a right, as is quality education. We've also talked about technology and innovation. We talked about all kinds of ways in which assistive technology can help people, how people don't have that, and some amazing pledges to look at pulling together global ideas around making sure that people have more access to that. And then finally, we've had some fantastic messages from the Youth Forum. It's been a great afternoon. I still have to colour in. I apologise, but you can take pictures as much as you want.
Thank you so much, Julia. Now, please welcome back for the last time the UK Secretary of State, Penny Mordaunt, to make her keynote address and closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the UK government and our co-hosts, the Government of Kenya and the International Disability Alliance, I want to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you for your enthusiastic and committed participation today. And on a personal note, I want to thank all of the moderators we've had today, and also my fantastic team at DFID, led by Gerard Howe. Give us a wave, Gerard. This man over here. And his amazing team, and my fantastic ministerial team, Alistair Burt, Harriet Baldwin, and Lord Bates, who has done a lot of the work for this conference. Give us a wave, Lord Bates. We have witnessed some incredible and inspirational moments today. We have heard President Marino's uplifting call to action. We were inspired by Maisie's moving journey in The Silent Child. And most importantly, we were challenged by the many activists and disabled people's organisations from across the world who have attended this summit. We have listened to new people and new organisations and new ideas. We have seen a broadening of the circle across civil society, governments and individuals. And we have worked together to embrace and deliver on our common goal to leave no one behind, bringing disability front and centre of international development. When people with disabilities are included, great things happen. And we have heard today about some of the exciting and ambitious projects and partnerships on disability inclusion that are underway. Great partnerships like the one with our co-hosts, the Government of Kenya and the International Disability Alliance. They're crucial if we want to transform the lives of people with disabilities. That's why we have announced the new UK-Kenya strategic partnership between our governments and Kenya businesses to economically empower people with disabilities in Kenya. It will establish a dynamic partnership model which demonstrates private sector leadership as a driving force behind inclusive economic growth. And over the longer term, I hope that this partnership model will be replicated and used to stimulate inclusive economic growth more broadly. I'm also delighted that the UK will be co-chairing a partnership for donors and foundations, the Global Action on Disability Network, with the International Disability Alliance and the Government of Australia. We have also seen the launch of new global partnerships for disability inclusion, such as At Scale, a global partnership for assistive technology with an ambitious aim to reach 500 million more people globally with essential assistive technology by 2030. And the launch of the Inclusive Education Initiative, a new UK-led multi-donor partnership to support developing countries realise the promise of truly inclusive schools, teaching and learning. It will support countries to collect data, integrate disability into education plans, and build capacity to roll out reforms and train teachers. We know that such data collection is invaluable when it comes to disability inclusion. Recognising the crucial importance of data today, we have launched a new global data portal with Leonard Cheshire that brings together existing disability data for the first time on 16 key development indicators from 40 low and middle-income countries around the world. This will help us identify gaps between men and women with disabilities and those without disabilities, and support stronger planning, resource allocation, and accountability. DFID has also signed up to the Inclusive Data Charter to support the quality, quantity, financing, and availability of inclusive and disaggregated data. And this will help us deliver on our promise to leave no one behind. Focusing on the private sector, the CDC, the UK's own development finance institution, will change the way they work so that disability inclusion is at the heart of the companies that they fund. Throughout our sessions today, I am delighted that we have consistently recognised the importance of both gender equality and youth participation for disability inclusion. And that charter you just heard about is amazing. As Minister for Women and Equalities as well, I'm particularly conscious of the double discrimination faced by women and girls with disabilities, marginalised for their gender as well as their disability. And that's why DFID is committed to amplifying the voices of women and girls with disabilities. Through the Girls Education Challenge programme, UK Aid has supported over 46,000 girls with disabilities to access education. Through the programme's new Leave No One Behind strand, we will back a further 15 projects and support 10,000 girls with disabilities. We are also providing additional funding to the UN Trust Fund to end violence against women, to prevent and respond to the violence against women and girls with disabilities. With regards to youth, DFID has extended the International Citizenship Service, a youth volunteering programme, until December 2019, and doubled the number of applications we want to achieve from people with disabilities. And I am also pleased today to set out DFID's position on children and young people in institutions. The UK government recognises that institutionalisation harms children's physical, emotional, and psychological development, and that children with disabilities are often the first to be placed in institutional care, the last to leave institutional care, and often end up being forgotten by society. The UK government will work towards the long-term process of deinstitutionalisation. The UK is supportive of inclusive community services for all children and the promotion of family and community-based care. We see the long-term solution to this issue to be tackling systemic problems at a national level so that systems, services and policies are in place to create a protective environment for all children. Actively involving people with disabilities in decision-making doesn't just empower individuals, it leads to better decisions and more effective outcomes. And today, we have all come together and demonstrated our leadership on disability by making new, ambitious, and far-reaching commitments, critical to achieving real change for persons with disabilities. Here are the numbers. Over 300 governments, organisations for people with disabilities, international agencies, and companies from the private sector have now signed the Charter for Change, openly committing to working together and step up our ambition on disability inclusion. We have received 170 sets of commitments from organisations and governments from around the world. For example, 9 national governments have committed to passing or formulating new or revised laws to give people with disabilities greater rights in the countries in which they live. 18 more governments and other organisations have committed to new action plans on disability inclusion. 33 governments and other organisations have pledged to specifically support more people with disabilities affected by humanitarian crises. And this includes the Australian government, who will give $17 million to support disability inclusive action in response to the Syria crisis. The Australian minister deserves a special shout out because she's actually left her husband on holiday to be with us today. So thank you to her. 19 governments 19 governments, businesses and other organisations have also pledged to develop the skills of disabled people and help them access decent work. And a particular thank you to the government of Kyrgyzstan for committing to ratify the CPRD. The list could and does go on. Our success here today will be measured in the weeks, months, and years that follow. We want to keep up the incredible momentum and energy that you have generated in this room today. That is why we have already started work to track and build upon all of the commitments we have made. The first phase will start work tomorrow, and we will ensure that all the commitments made at this summit are visible and accessible online. Over the next year, progress against the commitments will be monitored, and a progress report will be published in 2019 to show how far we have come. The report will help us share good practice and support each other going forward. We will prioritise investing and supporting civil society, disabled persons organisations and their networks in a number of focus countries. These accountability measures will help us stay on track over the first year, but it won't stop there. We must keep tracking and reporting on our progress against commitments made at the end of this summit and beyond. We must continue to raise the profile of and champion disability inclusion in global development initiatives. We must accelerate disability inclusive development by mobilising additional new commitments and new actors beyond the summit. And we must continue to progressively set more ambitious goals and share good practice and evidence. We have already started talking to a number of organisations here today, and we would like to hear from you all. Over the next 12 months, we can develop this partnership approach together and launch it next year alongside the first progress report. I encourage you to reach out to colleagues at DFID and at the IDA. If you are interested in shaping this long-term strategy and achieving lasting change for people with disabilities, we should all be proud of what we've achieved today. We have raised the global ambition and attention and focus on an area which has been neglected for too long. We have mobilised an amazing array of new global and national commitments towards achieving the global goals and the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. But above all, we have delivered a summit led by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. And as we go forward, we must ensure people with disabilities continue to lead. This is not just the right thing to do for common humanity, but it is the smart thing to do in ending extreme poverty. If we get things right for people with disabilities, we get things right for all people. This summit is just the start. We have all shared responsibility to ensure that the momentum continues. By working in partnership, we can achieve lasting change for people with disabilities in the world's poorest countries and build a healthier, fairer, and more prosperous future for all. Now is the time. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary of State. I think that deserves a very big round of applause. Thank you. Now for final closing remarks, representing the IDA, Gaia Jensen.
Ærede gjester, kolleger og venner. Vi klarte det.
Distinguished guests, colleagues and friends, we made it. Yeah, for the applause.
Vi stolte, vi organisasjoner av personer med funksjonsnedsettelse og deres familier for denne viktige rollen i toppmøtet.
We are so proud that we, organizations of persons with disabilities and their families, had a central role in this summit.
Vi vil takke våre medverter, Britisk departement for internasjonal utvikling, for å dele våre verdier og dette initiativet.
We would like to thank our co-host, the UK Department for International Development, for sharing in our values and for this initiative.
Vi takker dere alle som har kommet til toppmøtet, og vi takker dere som har deltatt på Sivilsamfunnsforum i går.
We would like to thank all of you for coming to this summit and to those who participated in our civil society forum yesterday.
Tolken fortsetter.
And now my interpreter will read the rest. Moving forward, we urge to include us, organizations of persons with disabilities, in the implementation of your commitments. The disability rights movement is ready and willing to work together with all of you to ensure the effective follow-up and implementation of the Charter of Change. And this is only the beginning.
Vi må jobbe sammen for å skape varige endringer og arv. Mange takk.
Let us work together to create a lasting change and legacy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And finally, our last speaker, the Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, Ukur Yatani, once again.
Distinguished delegates, I take this opportunity to sincerely thank the UK government through Right Honourable Penny Mordaunt, Member of Parliament and the Secretary of State for International Development, for conceptualizing the need to have a conference of this nature, bringing new voices, new partners, new collaborators, so that together we awaken attention to disability inclusion. I also sincerely thank Mr. Colin Allen, Chair of the International Disability Alliance, and his team for maintaining full presence and effective participation of persons with disabilities and their representative organizations. We must acknowledge and appreciate the old adage of nothing about us without us, as a testimony of successful completion of this conference. I wish to extend my gratitude to my colleague ministers from various states present here and all delegates for finding time to attend this inaugural Global Disability Summit. I believe our deliberations here will be a powerful force to bring real changes in the lives of persons with disabilities in our society and towards leaving no one behind. Indeed, our focus henceforth must be to ensure persons with disabilities are consistently and systematically included in international development and humanitarian assistance. My undertaking and that of my country, Kenya, is to immediately put in motion an accountability framework, starting with a post-summit meeting to agree on priority actions for implementing our commitments. From here, a national implementation action plan will be designed to roll out implementation metrics as well as provision of feedback on our commitments. I promise close collaboration with you, my co-host, in monitoring progress henceforth. Indeed, we look forward to the first meeting of the key stakeholder group in charting the way forward. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that stands out as a priority area for Kenya is access to quality, affordable assistive devices as critical to unlocking inclusion for persons with disabilities in all sectors of development, particular access to education and livelihood opportunities, creating a hub for partnership to thrive and produce high-quality, low-cost assistive devices as a critical priority that should not wait, and therefore our immediate undertaking to move with speed. Going forward, I rally all of us here present to live to the commitments we have made and nurture partnerships and collaborative strategies to implement what we have said here today. We can all succeed if we work together. Finally, my profound gratitude to all the teams that have worked tirelessly to put together this summit. It has indeed been very successful as your long hours of sacrifices have borne fruits. We look forward to next Global Disability Summit, where we shall undoubtedly report positive changes in relation to our undertaking. I wish you well as you travel back to your respective destinations at the end of this summit. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. So that brings to a close this monumental day. Thank you so much for participating in the summit. On behalf of the co-host, thank you everyone. Thank you to Julia for recording and visualizing our day. Her work will also be posted on the website. And thank you to our wonderful co-moderators, Isaac, Mia, Mark, and Seta. If you want to be part of the conversation on how we monitor all of these amazing commitments, please log on to the session on Gliss's slide for more details and to sign up to the partnership forum. Could everyone please join me in warmly congratulating our co-hosts, Ana Lucia Arellano of the International Disability Alliance, the Cabinet Secretary, Kanachu of the Government of Kenya, and the UK Secretary of State, Penny Mordaunt. I now leave you with this closing video. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Dignity means compassion and understanding for everyone. Now is the time.
Almost 1 in 8 people around the world have a disability. All too often, children are excluded from school, women and men are excluded from society, work, and decision-making.
Dignity means having voice for yourself.
Dignity means listening.
Dignity means being valued and recognized.
Deaf people are no different to others. They should be treated like normal people.
And I want a world without any stigma.
I want a world where every human being is enabled to achieve their potential.
Now is the time to take action. So people with disabilities can enjoy their rights, dignity, freedom, and have their voices heard.